All right. So today I'm super excited that we're going to be bringing on someone who I've been working with, helping him grow on Amazon. Because most of us who sell on Amazon are fascinated with the idea of selling off Amazon, where I actually have someone that's going the exact opposite direction. He's built quite the empire off of Amazon and actually manufactures his own products here in the USA. So he's also a manufacturer, and I'm helping him with the Amazon portion of things. So to come on and tell his story of how he got it all started and some entrepreneurial tips, I'm really excited to have Ryan Fritz from Office Sign Company. So Ryan, thanks for coming on Maximizing E-commerce.
Well, thanks for having me, Kevin. I'm happy to be here, and hopefully, I can provide some fun insight for I want to say our followers. Your followers, your listeners, and yeah, glad to be here.
Yeah, well, I'm sure there'll be some people that know you that I'm sure will want to check it out too. So welcome to those folks who are joining us. And so for those who are coming back to the podcast, welcome back. And for anyone that's new, welcome. But more than anything, I really want to talk more about you. And so help us get a little bit of context of how you got into the e-commerce business.
Oh man, let me think back. I think, Kevin, a lot of stepping stones that got me into e-commerce. I think every job that I held in my life, even McDonald's, prepared me for e-commerce life. That was my first job.
Mine too, actually.
Yeah, that's right. I forgot
Yeah,
about that. See, we have a lot of parallels. It's like,
we do. We do.
you take, and I forget so fast because we're both getting old too, but sorry. I was always a designer. And so I was designing t-shirts and trying to be a great designer. And my first realization was I was an average designer, but I love design. And so that's a phase that got me into it, so tried to dabble in some web design, and I was not good. Still not good, but getting into design allowed me to have some jobs, 20, 25 years ago where I was, designing letterhead. Some things won some awards, so the design must have been okay, but I got to do some web design, and then you work with web developers. And so an old pal of mine, and he's a professor now, so a testament to his teaching abilities. He kind of taught me HTML, like, just while we're drinking. He drank Mountain Dew, I drank coffee, and just,
While you're getting caffeinated.
Yeah, so I was intrigued, but I just, I didn't have the intellect to be a developer. But it's like, hey, I can make a H1 tag, and it's like, wow, like how neat is that? Like, so, I still have a passion for, like, I wish I could learn like CSS and all this stuff. So I got to work with, it was actually a division of our local newspaper, Jump Interactive, with a group of guys, and we were doing this was 2020. We were ahead of our time, but we were maybe too ahead of our time, where we were just, and so that fizzled out. And the newspaper, how it is, you've got this parent company, and they couldn't see the vision. And so hopefully when they hear this, they realize they should have stuck with this great team and what have you. But so I got to design, I got to work with some people that were, maybe some of the best developers still in our area, that have moved on to Minneapolis and, started their own businesses. It's like half of these people that worked in this interactive division started their own business now, and so it's all these little tidbits, but it all originates from design. I just wanted to design like cool websites. And, I did the design for Office Sign Company, which probably is a very painful and obvious thing, but it's like, it functions, and it's probably a 10-year-old model now. And so, I'm excited to think that hopefully in the next year, 18 months, we can have a new design that I don't have to design. But so all my previous jobs kind of seemed to funnel into this. And so when this interactive company fizzled out, basically I was, for the most part, out of work. A lot of people say you were laid off, it's like, let's be realistic. I was fired, and I think everyone should be fired one time in their life. It's very
humbling.
That's the word I was going to use. Very humbling, and
I've been there.
Yeah, I feel like I've tried to maintain that humility. I was cleaning some toilets at the office yesterday. you know, that's also very humbling experience. But well, you know what I mean? You know, sometimes you have to do the thing, and it's like promises that I made to my mom, you know, like, hey, I'm
Mm,
gonna clean the toilets at the facility, and I'm not going to do it every week, you know, but
right.
I think it keeps things real. But so, you know, just there was a, you know, being a designer, learning just, I mean, I'm talking like the basics of HTML, but if it wasn't for the time I spent with that developer, I probably wouldn't even, you know, I always try to tell Damien that, you know, it's like, you didn't teach me just a little bit of HTML. I don't even know if I would have a company these days. So there was an ad in the paper, and it's just like, you know, need a web guy, you know.
Mm,
And I actually thought it was maybe too big for me, but again, you got to do things that scare you, right? And
hmm.
how much fun is it if it's, so I thought, you know, I don't know. And it was down the street, a mile away from my house. I thought, how cool, you know, like close to work. Um, so this was a company that was doing maybe $79,000 a year in revenue with, you know, a handful of sites, just knickknacks, you know, just all sorts of crazy things. And I don't want to advertise too much for them, you know, because let's advertise for me, you know. But anyway, um, you know, so doing design and doing product development, you know, all as one person. Um, you know, after 3 or 4 years, that was, we were doing over 5 million for this company, you know, being a team of one. And so I think at one point I asked my boss and I said, you know, what if I can get us to 6 million? You know, what, and he looked over and he tapped me on the shoulder and he said, I'll get you some lunch. You know, I'll get you lunch, is what he said. And that's when I think I finally realized, like, really? Like,
So you were working hard for your boss's success, and then you get him up to a certain point, and he'll buy you a $12 lunch.
yeah. And I started doing some arithmetic, you know, I'm like, what is 1% of, you know, if he got 99% of the next million, and, you know, what is one, I don't even know, what is 1%? Is that a 10,000?
10,000?
You know, if he would have said, I'll give you a 10 grand, I would have busted my ass and
Uh-huh.
earned that 10 grand. But he would have got what, 990,000, you know? So, you know, those are some of the lessons. And, you know, you and I talked earlier, unfortunately, I didn't learn that till I was like 35, you know, 36, you know, why couldn't
Right.
I figure that out when I was 18, like some of your listeners and clients,
Previous guests.
yeah,
Yeah.
guests and so on. And so, but you know, I did figure it out. And
Hmm.
so at that point I kind of said, why don't I just do that on my own? But that, when you talk about how did I get into e-commerce, you know, it's like, I got to work with, geez, art supplies and chandelier parts and just all these different niches. And I was taking the photography and I was, you know, I mean, just refining everything. And so it taught me everything I need, you know, I learned it on my own, you know, and I
So
thought,
when was this that you made the switch to building your own e-commerce business?
this must have been around 14 or 15 years ago, which is a scary thought. You know, time goes fast. So for
Yeah.
those 22-year-olds out there, just pull the trigger and do it. You know, don't wait till you're 38, 37. Yeah, I'd say around 15 years ago is when I'm like, okay, I can do this on my own. And but my vision was much more simple and humble. I also wanted to spend more time with my daughter. There was some key components from, you know, again, same boss. And I just, you know, I had about 47 hours in for the week and I said, hey, I'm going to check out and go to my daughter's first t-ball game, you know.
Hmm.
And he didn't say anything. He said, okay. But then he emailed me on the, you know, Sunday and he said, you know, this schedule doesn't work for me, you know. And so I went in the next day and I basically quit without a plan. And so I have to thank him for, you know,
Wow.
basically,
So you basically just said, I've had enough, and I'm just going to go
well,
for it.
yeah, it's like I made you $5 million a year, and you know, I'm working 50 hours a week, and you know, just little things, you know, and it's just a little bit of appreciation goes a long way, I think. And
Yeah.
I, you know, cut that $10,000 bonus in half and write me a check for 5 grand out of that next million.
Right, right, right.
Wouldn't that seem simple? You know?
Yeah. So you decided, I'm just going to go all in. So I've had enough. I've gotten him to the point of 5 million. Why can't I do this for myself? Now, just to give people a little bit of context, so we'll kind of fast forward in the story. It'll give a little teaser to fast forward in the story and come back. But um, you're kind of at least at that level or better, right?
Yeah, before COVID, we were doing, I think about 5.2 million for, in sales. I always joke that it cost
Mhm.
us 5.199 million to do business. It
Right.
cost us 5 million to do business, but I mean, that's kind of how it works, right? It's like, hopefully there's some crumbs left over for us, or we can improve our efficiencies and so on. But, we took a pretty big hit last year, but um, we're doing some things to get us back on track. And I think the world is just coming back into place a little more. Like, our sales are more consistent. They're not where they were at, but they're, if they were at, $15,000 a day, at least they're at $9,000, and they don't dip to 2,200. Those are the ones
Mhm.
where you can't sleep at night, or you just like,
Right.
oh, like, what are we going to do?
Right,
So
right, right. I have costs, I have employees and all this. But so you didn't know you were going to get to the point of being, at that, multi-million dollar company level when you left. Now, nowadays there's all these tools that help you figure out like market research and stuff like that, especially for folks selling on Amazon. But like you went into the non-Amazon world, um, and you picked a product like or a segment. How did you decide on office signs?
that's the interesting part, and I think that goes back, again, a testament to, my previous boss would buy a truckload of whatever, pennies on the dollar. Sometimes it was junk. Sometimes it was like laminate flooring.
Right.
That it was literally like a molded asbestos product, and I went from making the website for it to actually unloading a truck full of asbestos, and it's just filthy dirty.
Oh,
You know,
wow.
um, so, again, back to humility. These things humble you, um, and so that probably doesn't answer your question, but I forget, what was the question
Well,
again?
basically, how did you choose the office signs?
Oh,
Like,
office.
because
Yeah.
it's not, I'm not seeing like how you came to that conclusion.
Well, okay, so I was working with so many products,
Hmm.
from art supplies to chocolates to parts, chandelier
Sure.
pieces, and but there was a small segment of office signs we were working on too. And so
Oh, okay.
again, it was a small segment, but I would be like, hey, what, because I'm the guy on the phone doing customer service for all these websites too. So customer service,
You're
web design,
unloading trucks, you're designing the websites, you're doing
it,
everything.
like I said, it took me a while to realize, like, I'm doing everything, I mean, for these niches. But so, um, there was some intriguing parts. It's like, learning from the customer was a big thing, and it still is. And
Mm.
I've got to write myself a note to remind my team. And so people will call, and it's like, I love this little sign you have on, but it's like, could you do something? And that's where my mind really got clicking, And so,
Hmm.
but when I ended up leaving there, I was actually thinking, of doing more marketing, because I was doing pay per click. I was learning about ads. I was learning about image compression and all. What should I do? Should I name these photos this way? And like,
Hmm.
let's make the site really fast. And and learning. Google would tell you, it's like, your site's really slow. And so,
Right.
um, but when I did quit, I have to take a step back. So remind me if I get off track. I was going to do online marketing. I started this company called Foundability. Like, I still love that name. Foundability. Like, you and I will have to do something with that one day when I
Okay.
finally make it to Florida. But um, so I'll fast forward past that story, but that's an interesting story too, of why that didn't succeed.
So you were going to do online marketing foundability, like helping people essentially get found, but you said I
Yeah,
want to
like
have
doing
my own thing get found.
SEO work, and
Hmm.
like building their websites. And again, I still
Mm.
didn't quite get it that I could do this on my own. And so, we do have to talk about this a little bit. So
Sure.
a lot of the companies now that are about, they're in the 3, 4, 6, $10 million range. I would meet with these people to do marketing,
Hmm.
and they would say, okay, when do I meet the rest of your team, Ryan? And I'm like, well, it's only me. And I would kind of see, it took me a few meetings and that's when their face would kind of just go blank. Like, wait, we're going to have our $2 million company working with this one guy. And then the other thing was like, okay, who are your clients now? And I'm like, well, you'd be the first one, like I'm just starting off. So meeting after meeting, you know, that was the two things. It's like, you know, when do I meet the rest of your team? You know, who are your developers? Who are you?
Mm.
And I'm like, well, it's just me right now. So that's when I realized that I needed a prototype. And so this is where it gets interesting. So,
Okay.
and so I'm like, okay, what kind of prototype site can I build to, you know, like, look how these
Yeah.
guys.
Here's how I did it. So you're just going to be your first customer, basically.
So somehow the sign, you know, like maybe it was because I had made my own sign for my boss,
Mm-hmm.
and so I started typing in. I said, oh, I need to find an office sign company, So I started typing in the field in Google, and I was typing in office sign company to see. But I think before I hit enter, I was like, that's when it clicked. I'm like, I think I just came up with a company, office sign company. It's
Right. Right.
really
Right.
generic, and it's like the search. That was the search that like a search guy was
Mm-hmm.
looking for. So I'm like, office. There was something that clicked before I hit. Probably God or something, some sort of blessing from above. But
Mm-hmm.
I think that's when I realized. And so then I just started building this website called Office Sign Company, and I've done it for all these little niche sites for my previous boss. And
Yeah.
but in the back of my head, I thought, maybe I can sell some signs, but it's like I have to show these potential customers that I have at least one client off a sign company. And so
Here's a
a lot of
website idea.
people misconstrue the story, in my hometown of Fargo, North Dakota. They say, oh, you started your business on accident, and your business was just a prototype. And it's like, no, I think I was going to, it's like, I'm going to sell $100 worth of signs. I'm going to do some marketing. I'll mow some lawns. I was doing some freelance design at the time. And my goal was, I was going to wear the same shirt every day, and I was going to like open a can of beans, give my daughter half. And just, like I said, it's just going to be, you know what? I'm going to work for myself. I'm going to make enough money I'm going to make $100 a day and live a simple life. And now, if you've ever experienced like decision fatigue, it's like, I read about like Steve Jobs and Zuckerberg, I was going to wear the same shirt every day because that's all I could afford. But, I wear the same shirt every day just because, it's like what Steve Jobs had, like a black turtleneck or whatever, and so it's like, it's just part of that is like, why, these guys look like bums, but it's learning that it's just one less, so I have like 8 white t-shirts, and I have like 9 blue long sleeve shirt. I wear the same shirt. Sometimes it is the same shirt day after day, just because, well, COVID and laziness, and I'm kind of a slob, but that's not true. But anyway.
But you got to the point where you can kind of relax. You don't have to be the one unloading the truck and designing the website and all this, because you built a team for you. So let's kind of dive into some of the in between, where now you can just dress however you want. And when you were kind of going, so you built this office sign company website, somewhat just as a prototype to say that you could have services. So when did you make the switch to say, okay, I'm going to do this full time, making and manufacturing signs, versus using this as just to, hey, look, this is my client, so to speak.
There was a pretty quick transition period. I was in Duluth camping with my daughter,
Mm-hmm.
and I wanted to make the website look real, and I knew how to do the office sign company prototype. It had my cell number attached, and it had like, hey, we'll call you back within an hour and all this stuff. Well, the main reason was that my marketing phone, my Foundability phone, just wasn't ringing, and but then all of a sudden people started calling this, same phone number. I don't think anyone figured it out. It was just my cell phone. It's the same number today, but I didn't have any service in Duluth. I didn't have any phone service. And so, I don't know if you've ever watched The Incredibles, when I think one of the, like Jack, he's, the babysitter calls, and she's like, hey, call me back. And then her emergency tone elevates. You'll have to watch.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah.
So
I've seen this.
as we're driving back,
Yep.
the nice thing is that my daughter and I got to have a nice trip, and we weren't, interrupted by this. It was a customer so all of a sudden I get service. And so I get this series of, it's like a phone messages in a period of 40. And it's like, hey, I really want to order some signs. And, it's like, give me a call. Thank you. And the next message, it's like, hey, you said you'd call back within an hour. And just kind of worried here. And then the next one, it's like, what kind of company like so,
Right.
so my very first customer, I lost my very first customer, right off the bat, but it was a valuable lesson to, like if you say you're going to call somebody back within an hour, you better have everything in order to, but I think that's when I figured out like, and I think there was one more message too. And so I made darn sure that I got back to that person. But so my first order, I didn't even have, materials in place, and I knew some of the, cause I was making, I was making signs. I was, doing all this stuff for my, empty, emptying trucks. And so I knew what it take to make some simple signs. And so anyway, the moral of the story is that my very first order on off a sign company, I think I lost like $242, to by the time I was able to ship and make some products. But the idea and the feeling of actually making something and putting it in a box and shipping it to someone and trying to do it within 24 hours, that was a pretty rewarding feeling. And I didn't give a crap that I think I did at the time, that
Right.
it's like, okay, my first order, I'm $242 in the hole. But I had also done, so much, I'd shipped and I'd done all the things for my previous employer. I'm like, okay, I know, so those were a couple early lessons. But that's when I knew like, okay, 2 people called me from Office Sign Company and no one's calling Foundability. But I mean, I was getting emails like, hey, can we do a consultation? But at that point, after 6 meetings, I knew like they're looking for a bigger team of SEO people and they want to see who, so at that point I'm like, well, hey, I'm working with Office Sign Company. And,
Yeah.
and then it didn't take long, it's just, all of a sudden it's like, man, I'm getting one order a week. Like, this is going to be great, like, so I got $19 here, I got that check coming from my freelance design. Maybe I should mow lawns, but
Right.
I was doing my own thing and I knew that there was some hope there, and so, but I knew it was going to have to be supplemented. And so, like I said, I was still designing t-shirts for a company out of Detroit Lakes, and, they were doing well with the, so things were working out.
Wow. Wow. Okay. So you started realizing like, okay, maybe instead of helping people have the ability to be found, maybe if I'm getting the ability to be found for my prototype, but not I'm not being found for foundability. So one's getting more traction than the other. So I'm going to go with this. So sounds like you had that first order, and even though you lost money, which I think a lot of people can relate to, it's not about the initial order, whether or not you made profit, from day one. It's that, sometimes it's that it becomes real. Did you kind of get a feeling of like, this is real? This is something I could actually do?
Yeah, it's hard to explain, but it definitely, it literally is like, hey, this is happening, and it's, and I think I could have quit there and been like, hey mom,
Right.
I sold a product, on my own store, and things just, heated up from there, and kept perpetuating. And, I think my dad had just passed away at that time too. And,
Mm,
I think that's another ingredient, these ingredients that
yeah.
I think it took a few like hits on the side of the head to be like, hey, like, why don't you start your own business, Ryan? Boom,
Right.
boom. So my dad didn't see any of my success. So he still thinks that, hopefully he's up there watching. I think he comes to visit me as a cardinal. They say that I have a cardinal that comes to my house every day, and they say that's a sign of a,
Oh,
but
yeah.
anyway, I would imagine that he can see the success now, but like on earth, he never got to. So he's probably like, this knucklehead never did.
No, I'm sure he's
Actually,
smiling up above.
he was the opposite. He always said, "You've got a damn good job. Don't." So I did.
Mm,
You know,
yep.
it's not like I had this entrepreneurial father that's like, "Go," and but he's like, "You're doing pretty darn good. Like, just stick with that."
Yep.
So sometimes safe isn't the right route, you know, like,
Well, yeah, I agree. So like, I've struggled with it sometimes too. Like, should I have gone back to a safe job or something like that? Like, I think I've said this before in this podcast, like in New Year's Eve, 2019, going into 2020, I was at um, this New Year's Eve party. And I remember there was this couple there and they were both pilots. And at one point in my life, I had wanted to, when I grew up, I wanted to be a pilot. And so it was just kind of like that, childhood dream of like doing that. And like, wow, it's a quote unquote safe job, steady, consistent pay, travel benefits. I'm like, should I have gone that direction? Well, then, 3 months later, that no longer looked like an
yeah,
attractive
that was,
industry to be in. And having been in the hotel business and, doing conventions, like that's a rough business right now too. So, you know, sometimes we forget that what may feel in the moment is safe is not safe long term because when you have one customer, your employer, that can be taken away at a moment's notice, and it's not anything you did or didn't do. It could be decisions of people above you. It could be influenced by people that you don't even know who they are and your boss doesn't even know who they are, but somehow on some report your line item no longer makes sense.
yeah, things change. And we learned that in the last year. That's for sure. You know, that's a pretty rogue event that we're all dealing with now. And I know there's a lot of industries out there that took advantage of, you know, COVID too. You know, they're, you know, well, alcohol sales are up, you know, so there's some industries that are like
Right, right, right.
fantastic, you know, and unfortunately I probably contributed 2% to the nation alcohol consumption, you know, that's pretty large amount, you know, but
I'm sure not.
yeah,
Even a drop in the bucket, literally and figuratively.
right.
But so you've made some pivots and things like that. So like to your point, like, and I'm in a similar boat where I have a lot of giftable products, and those tend to not do quite as well during the downturn because people weren't seeing their friends in office,
Yeah.
coworkers, and in your case, if people aren't going into the office, that could affect things, with the signs they buy. So I know you've made some changes. So, you've rolled with the punches on things over the years. You've, purchased equipment to be able to, make your own signs and whatnot. You and I are working together to help you grow the Amazon side of things in your world. So for someone who is, whether they're on Amazon and that's where all their sales are, they're off Amazon, they're trying to figure out, how to grow. If someone's listening saying, okay, whether I'm trying to go from 100,000 to a million or a million to 2 million, 2 million to 5 million, whatever level they're at, trying to get to, where you're at, uh, what recommendations would you have for them, whether it be mindset or whatever the case is, to get to that next level?
That's a good question. You know, for us, even entering into the Amazon world was scary. You know, to me, there was like this unspoken thing. It's like, well, if we show Amazon how great signs can do, you know, like
Mm.
if they realize they can sell $5 million worth of signs, will they just come out with the Amazon sign brand? You know, and it just like, dang, like we showed them how to put us out of business. So I had to get past that fear. And again, at least for us, you know, like you said, you always tell us we're the opposite. You know, you help people, um, you know, get, you know, that are having successful sales on Amazon, get into the commerce world, the normal non-Amazon. You know, we're the opposite. You know, we're trying to dip our toe into Amazon, and it's the same approach kind of to starting the business. Is like, you know what, we're gonna do $100 a month in Amazon sales, and that'll pay for, you know, like pizzas at the office. It's just,
Right.
you know, and then all of a sudden you're doing 200. It's like, do you guys, you know, like, why is there so much leftover pizza? Like, we don't have to spend $200 a week on
Right.
pizza, you know. Um, and then, you know, when we got to meet you, and we're glad we did, and we can talk more on that, you know, you helped us realize like, hey, you know, that $100 a month could easily be $500 a month. And, you know, as we're having that conversation, I think we were maybe reaching $500 a month. So it's like, okay, now we're doing like, you know, 6, 12, $25,000 in a year. It's like, well, here's some metrics, this is you talking, Kevin. It's like, here's some metrics, here's some things. It's like, you guys could do 6 figures easily. And I think we're on track to do that, so we'll be a Amazon 6-figure, but my whole tip is that, just start with a humble approach, and then maybe not make it all about the money, and just put in some hard work. And, obviously you have to have some good ideas. And, so we make a lot of customizable products. And so, and I know Amazon's getting better at that. That was one of the hard parts too. My team would say, oh, I don't know how to add, it's like, we can't have the customer call us and put their own name on a name badge, and so we still shy away from that. So that'll be another conversation that you and I have about customizations. And so, we go back and, it's like, we did this yesterday. I'm like, oh, I forgot about this sign, just a simple employees only sign, and I'm like, that's gotta go on Amazon. That'll be so, so it's just going back to the basics, and, for me, Office Sign Company's been around for this is our 13th year. And so I don't even remember what the basics are anymore. And so, but the tips are, just, you obviously have to take your best products and your best ideas and simplify them. We were also talking about, I designed a simple cashier sign, but it has a left arrow. It's a cashier arrow pointing left. And I said, now we need one pointing right, and we need one without the arrow, because I think sometimes, and that's still I forget what the word is. It's a friction point on our website. We have so many choices, Kevin, here's a sign, you can make it whatever you want, so we're trying to simplify it for the customer. So something, stay humble, be smart about your products, and, keep it simple, stupid.
Well, and that's a good point, because, and this is something that I've talked to a lot of folks that are going from the off Amazon world to the on Amazon world. Is a lot of times in the off Amazon world, people do more customization. Amazon does a lot of things really well. Customization is not.
It's still not their thing, huh?
Still not their thing. So what tends to work best is, like, to your point, like employees only sign or trash sign or whatever the case is, some sort of sign where you can just send in a handful of them to FBA. Like in your case, you don't have to send in a container load of signs. You could just make a handful of them, test them out, see which ones work, and then double down on the ones that work and discontinue the ones that don't, because, you're creating your own signs. Because the nice thing for you is you're the manufacturer. So, you get to go after more of those long tail products that for a lot of folks would be harder to do. And so, I think it's like, more than anything, I think it's, to your point, like, simplify things, find ways to, grow, and just know that, trust in the process. Like, right now your goal is, to get to 6 figures on Amazon, which, now that we've been working with your team and they're starting to give them kudos if they're listening.
Yeah,
they're doing a good job of coming up with more of a process for launching new products, because it's a different mindset. It's just as for someone to go from Amazon to off Amazon is a different mindset. To go from off Amazon to on Amazon, it's a whole different mindset of things. And so coming up with, what is that mindset? What is that process to replicate and scale? And I think your team is starting to do that. And I'm starting to see them launching more products. And as they launch more products, I envision it being kind of a hockey stick growth as time goes on, as they keep launching new products, because some of them are going to, surpass what they think they're going to do as far as results.
Yeah, I think in your words inspired me, another component, I think you basically said that is, I like to just throw a lot of things at the wall too and see what sticks, or, see what slides down, whatever, perspective you take on that. It's like, let's throw 100 ideas and, maybe 2 will work, maybe 20 will work. But, as I get smarter and, finally start using my brain capacity, I think old age gives you some wisdom, so there's that, I hope.
Not that old.
But, I'm hoping that, 98 of them stick, it's like,
Exactly.
I'm hoping we've figured out by now, and that's what we keep talking about, you talk about the people, and they're doing a great job, and I'll make them listen, whether they want to. And so they will listen to this. Um, so nice job, guys. The hard part is after COVID, our team was trimmed down a little bit. We had to, and so with getting new people, it's in a way we're starting over, but that's also part of the fun too. It's like,
Yeah.
Kind of like an anti-complacency thing. I think, even myself, I can get complacent or tired or lazy. And, you and I talked about that before we hit record too, about, you know, some of my pain points can be, do I, let my team run with, do we let, I should mention their names on the air just to put a little,
Sure.
but,
Go ahead. Go ahead.
do you have Tate run with it all, and can Luke do it, or do I do it, and then, kind of insert all my knowledge and, into the fibers of these conversations. So, or do both, it's like, got to empower them somehow. And so I think, like we also talked about, Kevin, just spending more time with you, because, for those listening, it is valuable. And I don't know how many clients you have now. We can talk about that, but I don't know. We keep it real. We have fun, and then we learn a lot in the process too. And I think that's, you got to keep those ingredients, back to your question, and like, what's some advice, you got to try to, insert some fun in there too, and, get the people that are, not everyone was a web designer, shipper, customer service hybrid. I think I still look for that employee. I still look for the old me. But to find these great people that have some passion points, passion for, Luke's got passion for Amazon. You got to talk to him a little bit, and I think he was pretty excited. So, how do you take someone like yourself, Kevin, and laser focus, and laser focus Luke, and just then I don't have to do anything, and you and him can run with it, That's kind of the goal too, do I pull myself out of the picture, or do I keep, so I mean, I enjoy, going back to foundability. I love some of the SEO stuff, so, but then you have an accounting nightmare that falls on your email, or that's the downside of being a CEO. The things you don't want to do always seem to poke you in the ribs or wake you up in the middle of the night,
Well, I think more than anything, and you're kind of touching on, before we hit record, you had like a little bit of a fire you had to put out this morning that came into your email inbox, accounting related, and people can relate to it. Stuff happens, but I think one of the takeaways from what you were just saying there is, empower your team. And you don't have to wear every hat. And that's one of the challenges I see with a lot of folks. And I've been guilty of this myself, of thinking you just have to do everything. And
Yeah.
so you get to a point where it's like there's a ceiling on, we think as the entrepreneur, we have to be the hero to do everything. But at a certain point, you got to find people that you could either empower, or you give them the process and you let them do the process that you created for them, or hire people that can figure out the process. And so you kind of got to figure out one or the other, because at a certain point, it becomes a ceiling on your ability to execute if you're the one who's constantly the one unloading the trucks forever.
Yeah. And it's a constant process, because you get pulled back in, you think, I'm not going to do that anymore, but then something pulls you back in. And but what did Steve Jobs say? I love a lot of his quotes. It's like, hire people smarter than you, which is most of my employees. So that's easy, but then like you said, that intelligence has to translate into performance, and getting them passionate about just the small things, just like Amazon pay-per-click. It's like, I used to do pay-per-click in the old Google world, but I don't know if I know how to do it in Amazon anymore. So that's another session that we have to talk about, you and I. So that'll be next Wednesday, or whenever that is. Tuesday, I forget.
Yeah, usually at the time of recording this, I'm usually meeting with your team every other week to help them figure out processes and stuff like that. And again, if they're listening, and if they're not, I'll say it either way. They've done a good job adapting to things and, helping to get the ball rolling. So I look forward to celebrating your continued success and continued success as we grow your Amazon channel. So I really appreciate you coming on. So if someone wanted to check out more of Office Sign Company or Ryan Fritz, where would they go?
I think you just search for Ryan Fritz online and you can find me. The website, officesigncompany.com, it's pretty obvious, go check it out. You'll see some early design that's maybe not stood the test of time, but I don't spend as much time on Twitter anymore, but I'm on Instagram, and I'm on, an Office Sign Company itself is on most of the social media. We haven't dabbled in TikTok too much. Have you been on there? Are you on there yet?
I got an account, but the only person who really uses it is my daughter.
Right. I had one, and I think I don't know what happened, and when they said that China owned it and they were gonna infiltrate, they basically hoarding all of our data, which may be true or not true. And then I got off of there, and I don't know how to use Snapchat very well, but I think I have an account on there somewhere. But yeah, I don't even remember a lot of my handles and stuff like that. But how the search world works. If you need to find me, you can email Kevin, and he can share my email. But that's part of what we talked about too, is if there are listeners out there that can learn something from me, which I know from my perspective seems unlikely, but
I'm sure they could pick up a few tips along the way.
Right. There might be some insight. And so, yeah, it'd be fun to see if any of your listeners, it's, Ryan at officesigncompany.com, just send me an email if you have questions about, the relationship, Kevin and I, the work that we get to do and how much we've learned about Amazon. And, I don't know, how long have we been working together now?
A few months now. Yeah.
Okay. And so in a short period of time, we feel confident in the Amazon process, so email me, email Kevin, check out our website, buy some signs, make fun of Tate and Luke, whatever you have to do. And the rest of my team, I feel bad, just those are the guys focusing on the Amazon stuff now. So hopefully listening to us talk, they'll be reinvigorated too. And Tate's headed to your area. He's going to Miami next week. So
yes. So, but he'll probably be back by the time this episode goes live. But
that's fine. That's fine.
Yes. Awesome. Well, I appreciate you coming on. And for those who want to check out some of those links, they can always go searching, which is since you're kind of a search engine guy at heart, they can do that. Or they can always go to maximizingecommerce.com/101. And I'll have links in the show notes. So really appreciate having you on, Ryan. This is it's always fun talking to you, and it's fun that we get to chat and everyone gets the benefit of hearing us talk.
Well, super. I hope the listeners got something, and I hope we do it again, Kevin.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Ryan.
Thank you.